And Alex, okay, hon, can you? I'm about to come up. I just came up. Okay, thank you so much. Just let me know. Ah, and let me check these settings so I can make sure that he is.
Testing.
Testing. About
Testing, testing, testing.
Can you hear?
Testing,
Can you
testing.
hear him?
Testing, testing.
Yes, I can hear him.
Okay, very good. On YouTube and
Okay.
Facebook, right?
Criminals use these.
That is Facebook, correct?
Okay, I'm sorry, on Facebook.
Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them.
Okay.
Report this criminal activity to the
Great.
Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.
And I'm going to ask you. Well, I'm going to ask you about something, but it'll be offline.
Difficult.
Um,
About everything around you changes. I would get
I-
phone calls.
just how you're handling a particular issue.
Some of them are suicide.
Okay.
Okay.
And I found myself.
Yeah, I need to find out from you. Is there?
And I started to wonder
Okay.
if I was next. It's a struggle to know.
Because a coordinated response on some of the stuff I think is important.
Sleep doesn't
Okay.
But I need to find out what your thinking is
tired all.
Okay.
on a few of these issues.
I didn't reach out for that help.
On a
Thank God
few
my
of
wife
them.
did.
And I also want to know what you're thinking about
Project,
the
talking to
Black
somebody
community and
that
Trump.
would
We're
listen
going to be
me
talking
and
about
understood my story.
that today.
And realized that it was time to change.
Not
There's a new fight. There's a
not the
new
Black community and Trump as
mission,
much,
and
because
that's
I
something
didn't
I'm
get
eternally
guests
grateful
who
for.
arc in that direction. But
Okay.
The Democratic Party is beginning. Well, I mean, it is very noticeable this year that they are beginning to have problems
1 minute.
holding on. Thank you, holding on to
like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
the Black vote. Thank you so much, Alex.
Or
Let's
that
have a
time
great
you
show,
forgot to
hon.
roll up your windows.
Yes, let's have a great show.
Fantastic. Yeah, a remote
Okay.
control would have come in handy then.
And I
Well,
should have sent
life
this
doesn't
to you,
always
but I
give
thought you'd be
time to
busy.
change the
You just got a lot on you right now, so I don't
Prediabetes
want to
does,
ask you much
with
of
early
you.
Yeah.
diagnosis, and a few health
Understood.
benefits like managing your weight, getting out of
Understood.
smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes.
But Dad and I are
30
going to come
seconds.
by in another week or so.
It's easy to learn your risk.
That'll be fun.
Minute
Okay.
test today. And do
I did. I stopped by
Life doesn't come with a remote
for the
control.
minister's breakfast. I couldn't say luncheon, and I told him that I was expecting to see him real soon.
10 seconds.
And I said, the people need to see that you support me.
Oh, yeah. How did I know he was like,
Stand by.
Okay.
Listen, he started mumbling,
Mm-hmm.
and talking real low.
Suddenly you couldn't hear, you couldn't understand it. I got it.
Not a word.
Boy, don't play with me.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Of course, you would not be trying to get you to go back to the church forever. Okay. Without pink hair. Oh, boy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today as we talk politics, everybody. The Democrats are beginning to struggle a bit. Indeed, the former Clinton press secretary, Robert Reich, said that, third-party candidates are just going to help a Trump candidacy be successful. Do you think that's true? Should Cornel West not be running? I mean, and you could extend that, make it metaphorical. Should not Robert Kennedy, who, according to some polls, has up to 20% of the vote, and he is a candidate who crosses party lines. He's not a Republican-funded candidate, everybody. He is just someone who appeals to everybody. We had Kathleen Rowley, the FBI whistleblower, on yesterday, who said what we need to understand about politics is that this is not about parties. It's about policy. It is about power. I've been saying that to you over and over and over and over again. Each of these parties have different cultural appeals at different times. And we need to figure out how we the people can win. Black, white, yellow, red, I don't care. Rich, poor, in between, people who are living in the margins and who are in the gutter. How can the people win? The rich continue to get richer, the poor continue to get poorer. Something's not right about that. That math ain't working. So I need you, and we need to stop having these pre-selected candidates who they ram down our throats, who become unpopular once they get into office, and who still do not do what we need them to do. They do the bidding of corporations. So let's think about that. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Should third-party candidates, or should people who challenge Joe Biden, people who challenge even Donald Trump, should they drop out the race? And specifically, does Cornel West present a threat to Donald Trump? To Joe Biden? Does Robert Kennedy? I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, they keep, his point was, if you keep shaving these votes, you're not going to have enough. They can take enough votes to really prevent a Joe Biden win. Joe Biden's already having his own problems, bless his heart. So we can talk about those things too. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. We're going to have a high in the mid-70s today here and in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So let's get to some of these headlines. Wow, Aaron Rodgers might have had a career-ending injury last night. New York Jets man, God bless him. God bless him, 39 years of age, the oldest man in the league and one of the great football players of all time. So we will have to see how all of that's going to shake out. In the meantime, the U.S. advanced a prisoner swap deal with Iran. The Biden administration issued a waiver for banks to transfer $6 billion in frozen Iranian oil funds without fear of U.S. sanctions. Congress was notified of the move yesterday. It's a step in securing the release of 5 American citizens detained in Iran as early as next week. The FDA, approved a new coronavirus vaccine. What to know? The reformulated shots approved yesterday target an Omicron subvariant ahead of fall's respiratory virus season. Cases and hospitalizations have already been rising. And I can tell you, as someone who is just recovering from pneumonia, check and see what it is that you have exactly, because everybody doesn't have COVID. We still have the flu out here. We still have pneumonia out here. We still have all kinds of issues. And that's why we're going to have Dr. Shanina Knighton on with us in just a few minutes. Ooh, I think we might have lost Pastor Thurston. Okay. That's why we're going to have Dr. Shanina Knighton on in just a few minutes to help us to figure out how we can prevent infections. Morocco has been slow to accept foreign earthquake aid. The United Nations and countries including France, Germany, Italy, and the United States said they were waiting to provide help after Friday's 6.8 magnitude earthquake. At least the death toll is nearing 3,000, everybody. Sensitivity about the scrutiny of foreign aid workers may play a role, but Morocco's reluctance has baffled foreign officials. Perhaps we need to ask Morocco why they do not want the Western powers in there. The Justice Department's antitrust trial against Google begins today. The case will determine whether Google illegally used its popular search engine to throttle competitors in search and advertising. It's the first such case against a major tech company in more than 20 years and could affect the tech landscape and Google's reach. Hurricane Lee is a growing threat to eastern New England, everybody. The hurricane will most likely remain offshore, but it could bring significant storm hazards like strong winds, heavy rains, and storm surges to New England later this week. The Canadian Maritimes and Nova Scotia will probably experience a direct hit, praying for all of those people. And in the midst of this writer strike, guess what? Drew Barrymore is bringing back her talk show. Wow, the actress restarted her daytime talk show yesterday, drawing intense criticism and picketing outside the show's taping in New York City. The show's writers have been on strike since May with the Writers Guild of America, which remains locked in negotiations with studios. Some are saying that this strike could go into 2024. So what do you think about her just breaking the strike? Ooh, she's in a union. What do you think? Call me at 773-763-9278. But the question of the day is, should third-party candidates run? Robert Reich, the former Clinton Secretary of Labor, said, look, all Cornel West and even a Robert Kennedy, all that they are doing is taking votes away from Biden. Now, you can't presume that he's the nominee, right? Let's talk about it. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Of course, this is the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT here in Chicago, and AM 950 radio, my brothers and sisters up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Do we have you back, Pastor Stephen Thurston, New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church?
Ms. Jackson, can you delay just for a little bit? We're having phone issues. One second,
Okay,
please.
we are having some phone issues, everybody, but I want to know what you think about this supposition that it is a problem for us to have choices in the primary. In the primary, this is when you're supposed to slug it out. You would not have had Reverend Jackson's iconic presidential run, but not for the primaries. You won't hear all the ideas. You won't hear different points of view, some points of view that are more closely aligned with yours. If you do not have competition, if you do not have debates. So what is this? Do we have elections or selections? I mean, are these coronations or what? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Do you think that Cornel West should still be running? I mean, indeed, Robert Reich says, look, he is going to hurt the nominee. Well, the presumptive nominee. So what do you think? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I, for one, think that everybody ought to be running. And we need to have a platform that allows all of these people to be heard. So I want to know what you are thinking. Call me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. Let me hear. I think Pastor Thurston is still on, Alex. He just sent me a text saying that he can hear me. Pastor Thurston, can we hear you?
He's still not on.
Okay.
We're having issues with the phones.
Well, then what we're going to do is just continue. I want to know what your thoughts are with respect to this. Indeed, Robert Reich said whether they intend to be or not, third-party groups such as No Labels and the Green Party are in effect front groups for Trump in 2024. No Labels has pledged to spend $70 million to support a third-party candidate in 2024 and could easily draw enough votes from President Biden to tip the presidential election to Trump. Now, No Labels it's really a misnomer. They are really a Republican group. That's Joe Manchin. I met many of them, when my brother was being sworn in Congress earlier this year. Nice guys, but they're Republicans and they have a lot of money like Republicans tend to have. So aligning them or equating them with the Green Party, which does not have nearly the resources, is really not fair. It's just not true. So they have already qualified to be on the ballot in 10 states. And I would say this, many people vote strategically. I don't think that people from No Labels would be inclined to vote for Biden. No, they are trying to push the needle in Republican circles. That's where they are. They are not over here trying to push the needle on the Democratic side like Joe Manchin is. He's No Labels, but you know who he is. He's the only statewide elected Democrat in West Virginia. And that's why he remains a Democrat, so that he can hold on to his Senate seat. And you see the havoc that he has wreaked on the Democratic platform. And so what do you think? I think we need to have everybody speaking. I think now Robert Williams, you say you can't stand spoilers in most circumstances. Are these spoilers? People were saying that Reverend Jesse Jackson could be a spoiler. And yet he registered more voters than anyone in the history of American politics. He brought voters to the Democratic Party. He brought voters to the process. So what do you say about that? So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. 773. Dave Dowling, you said sometimes a third party is the only way to get an issue before the people. I agree with that. And so what do you think? Because a lot of people don't agree with the mainstream platforms in the Democratic or Republican parties. They don't agree with them. So what do you think? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. I know we're having some phone issues right now, but keep calling because we might be able to answer the phone. I'm not in the studio, but I know Alex is really working that out. And so I want to hear your thoughts as you participate on the chat line on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Should everybody be able to run? Of course. And they're saying that we're peeling off votes from the Democratic Party. No, what the Democratic Party needs to do is begin to engage in voter registration drives. That's what we did. There are millions of high school seniors who could be registered to vote. And you know what? Republicans could register them too. I think we need to just get the kids registered to vote. Why don't you do that? Why don't you look at all of these disaffected voters and make sure that they are registered to vote? Why don't we do something to protect the vote, protect voter election laws so that it'll be easier for people to vote, not harder for people to vote? That should be the concern, not blocking people from the stage so that we only get one point of view in the Democratic Party, which is corporatist. That is not what we need. We need people who are running in the Democratic Party and the Green Party and other parties who are moving the needle, who reflect the voters' desires, not corporations' desires. Remember, the Republican and Democratic parties are private corporations. They are not government entities. They are private corporations who make a decision about who's going to be the president or who's going to run for dog catcher on the local level. Think about that, everybody. The DNC and the RNC, their boards of directors, well, it's private. It's a private corporation. These are private corporations. Think about that. Think about that. So are you going to let these private corporations have this much public responsibility? And who has the right to tell people that they should not run, that they should not represent points of view? When I hear Cornel West, when I hear Robert Kennedy, I hear candidates who are speaking my language. And in the primary process, that is what I'm supposed to hear. I'm supposed to be able to cheer my candidate on, and they are then supposed to be able to contribute to the platform and shape the platform so that it reflects me, so that it reflects you. That is not what more and more of the establishment Democrats are calling for in this particular season, in this particular cycle. They want a closed system. And that is un-American and it is undemocratic. Now, it's the American way, but it's also the American wrong. This is not the way this is supposed to work. Not if we are going to be a free people who have liberties, civil liberties, who have liberty in general. We are not supposed to be following these people are supposed to, candidates are supposed to follow us and they're supposed to reflect us. So when they get on that stage, they talk about ending poverty. They talk about funding Ukraine or not funding Ukraine. They talk about, they raise the question about Lahaina. Haven't you seen the media blackout on Lahaina? We're looking for this gentleman in the Northeast, Cavalcante, who needs to be caught. He escaped prison. He killed his girlfriend. Oh my gosh, absolutely. I hope he's caught. But you know what? I want to know what's going on in Lahaina. I want to know what's happening to these poor and working class people who have lost their homes, who were given $700 by the government and told that they're not going to get any more. Isn't that an issue to you? Why is there a media blackout on that? Why aren't we hearing candidates talk about that? What about East Palestine, Ohio? What's going on there? What is going on? Not just with the cleanup, but with the toxic cleanup. What is everyone's health like? What's the state of their health? These are the questions that these so-called outlier candidates raise. And they're not outliers. This is a process that's supposed to be open. So I want you to call me at 773. Hey, Ari, how you doing, my sweet? I want you to call me today at 773-763-9278 and let me know what you think. Should we open up the process and let everybody run? Or do you think that Cornel West is a spoiler? Even though what he's saying to you, what he's saying in his candidacy is making a lot of sense to a lot of people. It more closely reflects a lot of people. People you want to vote for the Democratic Party should it come to that in the fall of 2024. You don't want fewer Americans to participate. That's unhealthy for the system. You want more Americans to participate. You don't want to exclude Robert Kennedy's supporters. These people get turned off, they don't vote, or they vote in another direction. Is that what you want? Think about that, everybody. So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and I want you to tell me, should we hear from the People's Party? Should we hear from the Green Party? Are these spoilers, or are they speaking to your needs and your positions on the issue? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Let's talk about it. Back in just a moment.
Ms. Jackson, there's an issue with the phone. If you can hear this.
I can hear you.
All right, there's a dial tone, and we can't get rid of it. It's not coming from our studios, and I'm on the phone with Jim now, and we're trying to reset the system to get rid of it.
Okay, so is there any way to get anyone on?
Hopefully, with this reset of the computer, within maybe 5 minutes or so. But we're just waiting for it to reboot.
Okay, well, can you add a couple of commercials?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so because it would be nice because I want.
Yeah, that dial tone came out of nowhere. I have no idea where it came from.
Yeah, and I don't know if it'll come back. You know.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to put the Reverend on, because although that might not go over the air, you'll hear it and he'll hear it and it'll interfere the conversation.
Okay, no worries. But I just don't want with when things go kablooey like that. I don't know what else is going on. So I'd rather kind of, if you don't mind, wait it out for a hot second.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to see where we are. Okay. So, but thank you so much for that.
Folks want to call in and join the conversation?
Yeah, no problem. Sorry for the delay. I got Mike. I got the whole team over here trying to figure this out.
No. I mean, honey, things happen. I mean, this is why, you have previews whenever you do. As a professional singer, and I've worked with Roberta Flack, Miles Davis, all kinds of people, and you have sound checks, and sound checks are so that you know what to do when things go wrong. Live, when people are sitting in the audience who have paid for their seats and they don't want to hear, "Oh, we're so sorry." They don't want to hear that.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
They just want, and these people are like that too here. So, but thank you, hon.
Okay, I added 3 minutes. I'm gonna run to the back. I'll be right back before
Okay.
we go live.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I want you all to continue to talk to me and let me know what your thoughts are. Should we have, Dave Dowling, you say blame the NSA for all audio and visual problems with the broadcasting of the show? It is interesting, isn't it? And you know what Robert Kennedy said when I think an alarm went off in the middle of his speech? He said, "Nice try." He tickled me when he did that. I said, "Oh yeah, he knows what's up." See, because he's seen it, which is why the establishment is fighting him so hard. And I just have a lot of respect for someone who stands up to the system and stands for justice. I just have mad respect for that. So, and if some Republicans like him, so be it. Some Republicans like me too. So what? I'm not a Republican. You're free to like me or dislike me. All Democrats don't like me. Every time we have run, we've had to run against the party. The party's never supported us. Ever. And that's cool. But I'm just saying, really? So I want you to let me know on the chat line. What do you think? Should, because I'm looking at the headlines, independent of Cornel West and Robert Kennedy, Biden's having problems with Black and Latino voters. They're not creating that problem. There's something that he is doing or not doing that is bothering them, that is not working for them, right? So, it's just like the migrant crisis. You can get angry with the migrants if you want. Please, you feel free. But they're just like COVID. That is, they pulled back the covers on a problem that we already have. They're not causing the problem. They are unveiling the problem. So they're taking the covers off of it. So there we go. Yeah. Okay, Chaparral, you say justice and policing and civil rights laws, Biden failed on both? Okay. Well, I hope you call in and let us know what your thoughts are. You're so articulate. Doesn't it kill you when people say that to you? God, you speak so well. Don't let me get started. But we're trying to figure out what's going on. We're having some technical issues. The dial tone you heard was, coming from the phone. They're having to reset the system, just so that you know. And here's from the Washington Post. Democrats worry that their most loyal voters won't turn out for Biden in 2024. Number one, that headline is off. How do we know it's going to be Biden? He's one of the most unpopular presidents in the modern era. That doesn't give me any joy to say that. Goodness gracious, it makes things harder. Doesn't give me any joy. But, the whole primary process means you trying to find someone who's good, the best candidate. Because remember in 2020, Biden was
Testing.
Hey, honey, I can hear you now.
Awesome.
Oh my goodness, you want to weigh in?
I didn't hear what you were talking about.
Bless your heart. Well, you know what? You can just give us the good news. Cha.
All right, that signal's gone. I think Jim moved something. He fixed it. So
challenge us today too. Accept uncertainty, which is what we just did.
Do you understand what I'm trying to talk about? Okay, I am with you. I am with you, but hopefully I was able to. Kenneth Rush says, I was talking about, Robert Reich, who said, look, Cornell West shouldn't be in the race.
Yes.
And these third-party candidates shouldn't be in the race. I'm like, no.
30 seconds. Ms. Jackson, should I still call Dr. Knighton?
Oh, yeah. Well, no. I'm going to have the pastor on. And then that's going to be, then I've got to go on. But if you would call her and apologize.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be great. But you know what? Let's do that first. Let's get the Dwight McKee and
10
everybody
seconds.
else on. Robert Patillo, because they're wondering what's going on now. Okay?
Stand by.
Thank you, dear. Woo.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Welcome back. I think we have things fixed. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for working it all out for us on the Santita Jackson Show. As you know, I took the opportunity to run some things off. But I want to hear from you. Call us at 773-763-9278. Let us know what your thinking is with respect to third-party candidates or just candidates who are not Biden. Because that's really what is behind Secretary Reich's assertion that I guess no one should be running because you're going to hurt Biden. Well, that means he's too weak. Now, what you need to do is sit down with him and help to strengthen him instead of having Corinne Jean-Pierre stop him mid-sentence, which makes him look weak. And then you play some soft jazz music. Oh, yeah. Did you see that press conference? It was awful. Yes. I was like, now, could they have found a smoother way to have done this? Oh my gosh, it was too much. So, Pastor Stephen Thurston, come on now, before you give us good news, you know that was not a good look.
No, it wasn't.
I was like, now hold on. I said, hold on. I said, sis, y'all could have done this differently because what you're doing is making him look weak.
Exactly.
There are many public figures who are having their health struggles. And you know what? First of all, you don't see them unless they're at their best. My father just goes out because he's just going to keep on going because I think he thinks he's going to miss something. But, when he's not having the best day, and my mother has now started to intervene, and she's like, stop. No. Now you're tired. Because he's still trying to function at that pace, because people need him. And people come up to him and ask him, Reverend, how you feeling? But I need a job. That still happens today. And he's still looking, but that's all right. My father's very happy with the call. He has been faithful to the calling on his life, and he's right there. And I ain't mad at him. I'm gonna try and help him. But I know, number one, now with where you are, you need rest. But I just reminded people that were it not for the primary process, which is what this is, Reverend Jackson was an outlier. We didn't run for the party or with the party. We had to run against the party and change the party rules. What you're asking of Cornell West, what you're asking of Robert Kennedy is wrong. What you're asking of Marianne Williamson, you're asking people to stand down and not represent issues and ideas that other people in the electorate want to have heard. It's not right. It's not right. It's not about anybody but Trump. Somebody's going to be president. What you need to do is understand that whomever is president, you're going to have to negotiate with them so you can get not who you want, but what you need. It's not the who, it's the what. Pastor Stephen Thurston, how you doing?
I'm doing well today. And you are speaking truth today.
Thank you. Ooh. So talk to me, sweetie. Now that because we really do need to begin with some good news. And I think maybe the uncertainty of the day might have inspired you a bit.
It did. Or gave me confirmation, one of the two.
Well, what's the good news?
Well, Tony Robbins says that the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably deal with. And some years ago, Santita, that would have been hard for me to read, let alone verbalize, because my life has been so colored by a laser-sharp determination and an absolute knowing of what my next step was going to be. I've told you all here before that I'm a bit of a perfectionist and a lot of a control freak.
No.
But today, I know it's hard to believe, but I sit today in a different place. Today, I comfortably sit in uncertainty. And I don't always know what the next step will be for me. And I've learned to be okay with that. Honestly, there are so many unknowns at this point in my journey. And whereas my automatic response to this uncertainty would have been to obsess endlessly until I figured it all out, what I've come to realize is that all of my ideas of knowing actually block me from the truth more than they actually reveal it. Uncertainty makes us feel vulnerable. And so we try to escape it in any way we can. We find ourselves convincing ourselves that we're all fortune tellers and can therefore see the future. We make ourselves crazy, spinning our minds through the same handful of scenarios we come up with over and over again, never feeling any closer to some sort of resolution. However, it seems a great paradox of life that it is actually through embracing the uncertainty that we thrive. And the truth is, our lives are greatly determined by what we do when we get uncertain. Because without uncertainty, we might never grow because we would never be pushed beyond our comfort zone. And if we're honest, many of us have experienced staying in a soul-sucking job or an unhealthy relationship because the uncertainty of leaving those situations created more anxiety than the certainty of staying in those unhappy situations. And many people don't end up following their true passion because it's seemingly impractical or because there is a large degree of perceived uncertainty associated with following that plan. Now, yeah, true. There are no guarantees when we step out into the unknown, but it's in these periods of discomfort that life's most important adventures often arise. Making peace with uncertainty is going to require some stuff from us. Courage, faith, and trust that you will, in fact, be taken care of, that no matter what happens, you're going to find your way through it, that you don't have to have all the answers today. And contrary to popular thinking, not knowing exactly what will happen next in our lives is okay. Matter of fact, it's liberating. The ability to let go, to not know, and to try to totally control what will happen next is a necessary skill for us to live happy, joyous, and free lives. And listen, most spiritual practices ask us to consider the possibility that there's a greater power than ourselves at work. Therefore, it's okay to let go of the reins sometimes. And I have found it easier to let go in many circumstances when I'm able to recognize that I'm not the only force at play, that God has God's hand in all of this, that there are some circumstances that are far beyond my control that are impacting my life and what the future holds. Now, we can't embrace a new uncertain future when we are fully attached to our old lives or old ideas of how we think something should be. And I found that when I'm not that anxious or in that fearful state where I'm trying to figure it all out on my own, that noise in my head that is trying to control everything will often drown out my intuition. When we accept that things are unknown, that we don't have all the answers, we can see that teachings are available if we're paying attention. When we trust, let go, and embrace the uncertainty, that noise in our head is going to subside. So today, I want to challenge you to address the fearful dialogue that's in your head and work to quiet it. Learn to listen to your heart and let go. Know that it's okay, even though you don't know what's coming next. Uncertainty is fine. It's all right not to have all the answers. Let's embrace the fluid nature of life. Let God do what God gonna do and enjoy what this journey is going to look like as we accept uncertainty.
I love that. I love it. That's hard for people like you and I, Stephen, or you and me.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard because, I like to have everything in place, but, I'm a recovering type person. And my father
That's
told
it.
me, baby, that's what faith is for. You got to take that leap. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, if there's some still voice inside of you telling you to go or go slow or stop, listen. But you gotta,
Do it.
you won't know until you do. And then you really don't.
That's
You
right.
still don't know until you. And my mother, one of her favorite saying is, I'm going to run on until I see what the end's going to be. And you don't
Yes.
know what the end's going to be till you get till the end of the road. Let me go, boys to men. I love it. Facebook Live, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on Fridays. You're still doing
That's
that?
correct.
Okay.
Still
And
doing it. I'm still there.
you are now the pastor of New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church, fourth generation of the Thurstons. Love it, love it, love it. Where is
That's
the
it.
church and when can we worship with you in person?
We're live on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I get you out by 10:15, so you can join us in person at 77th and Cottage Grove. If you're in Chicago, you can't miss the church. Or you can join us on Facebook, on our stream for the church, or on YouTube. One of those platforms is available. We've got people across the globe that tune in and worship with us, and we invite you to do the same.
Oh, well, Mark said, I like Pastor Thurston's Fridays. He loves it. Nicole Barrett, thanks you for what you said this morning. She said, I really, really need it. You know, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for all that you are doing. So proud of you, so excited for you. Well, let's make this pivot. Robert Reich says that, hey, third-party candidates are going to guarantee they're really, as he put it, front groups for Trump in 2024. Do you think that's what Cornel West is doing? Do you think that's what Robert Kennedy's doing? Do you think that's what Marianne Williamson is doing? I mean, do you think they're not third party, but they are being urged to get out the race, get out the way so we can get Biden in? He's the only one who can beat Trump. Okay. And why are we making this all about Trump? What about the issues? What about the people of Lahaina and aid? What about what we were able to get at the height of the pandemic in terms of our healthcare protections that we no longer have? What about? These auto workers are about to go on strike. And if you listen to the corporate media, you're saying that you would really assume that they want more for less. They want to work 32 hours a week and still get paid for 40 hours. No, real wages have not moved in 50 years. These people are not able to make it on what it is that they make. They're not able to be with their families. They're not able to do little things. So what do you think about that? Let's turn these narratives around. But, you know, and I hear you, I said, Osa, you said, can you name, Santita, can you name what you will get from the Republican Party? Let me say this to you, Osa. I'm an independent Democrat. I shouldn't have to say that, but that is true. And just because I don't toe the Democratic line doesn't mean that I am any less. I'm going to continue to push the party so they can do what it is that I need them to do. But you shouldn't lie prostrate for a party. You should negotiate with a party. Let me say that again. You do not lie prostrate for a party. You negotiate with a party so that they can theirs. That's human beings have to worship. I think that's why God has an admonition against it. You know, you don't put any God before me, because we do that. We do that with kings and queens and with our stars and on and on. We got to stop that. What are your needs? You need food. You need to be able to go to the hospital. You need to be able to not go into bankruptcy because you get sick. And you need to demand that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and the establishment itself, the corporatocracy, speak to those needs that you have. Americans are hurting out here. You have farmers throwing away food when we need food in urban, rural America, and every place in between and outside. Migrants aren't creating a problem, they're uncovering a problem. We have a homelessness problem, a problem of the unhoused in America. Stop beating up on them and start demanding that the corporatocracy get out the way and give you your housing. We have 16 million units of open housing in the United States. 11.6% as of last year of housing in America is unoccupied. House people, feed people, clothe people, and educate them, and allow them to become all that they can be. And that should go for everybody. So I've got Dwight McKee, of course, brilliant social scientist, dean of the Ma'afa Project here in Chicago. We've got attorney Aaron Connolly, brilliant political organizer and strategist. And if you are in a crisis in politics and just in general in public life, you want Kevin Lampe on your side, brilliant political organizer as well. And we've got attorney Robert Patillo, WAOK in Atlanta, and he is also from Rainbow Push. Let me start with you, Robert Patillo. What do you make of Robert Reich's assertion that that the Green Party and no labels are really front group for Trump, and that candidates like Cornel West and Robert Kennedy are taking votes away from Biden, and they're hurting Biden, and they're guaranteeing a Trump victory in the fall of 2024? Robert Patillo.
Well, I disagree with him. The reason being that the reason Trump won in 2016 was that he was getting $3.5 billion of free media, free press. He dominated the news cycles anytime that he even just stood up and did a press conference or did one of his rallies. CNN would just turn on the rally and leave it there for 2 hours. They would talk about him incessantly, morning show, night, evening shows, the late night shows, etc. The only thing that's giving any energy to the Democratic side of the aisle right now is the conversation around the third-party candidates. The press isn't covering Biden no matter what he does. Trilateral agreement between Japan and South Korea for defense and economics. No press coverage. Bilateral talks with India and the opening of a new economic corridor between the Indian subcontinent and Europe on Saturday. No press coverage. Conversation with Vietnam, opening up $70 billion in for Boeing to provide them with a new airline. Absolutely no press coverage. The only thing that's getting any coverage is the fact that you have people like Cornel West and Robert Kennedy and Marianne Williamson in the race. And I think the competition actually helps steel sharpen steel. And this idea that there's supposed to be this coordination of sorts and not any conversation is exactly the philosophy that the Hillary Clinton campaign had. Or if you remember back in that race, they were holding the Democratic debates in the middle of the night on off days. There were no real questions. It was a coordination as opposed to mental competition. And I think that actually hurt her going into the general election. So this idea that you can't have any discussion, that you can't have any challenging to the person in charge, I don't think that's an effective way of campaigning. I don't think that actually helped President Biden at all, drumming up attention, drumming up information. And if you remember in 2016, Hillary Clinton very much went into the general election flat-footed because she hadn't been challenged during the primaries. She really wasn't able to campaign. She hadn't built that base up that was needed to be able to go toe-to-toe with somebody like Trump, because it had been nothing but a coordination during the primary, and they did everything they could to make sure that Bernie didn't have an actual opportunity. So I think that given the Biden record, given what he's been able to achieve in his first term, there's going to be no problem with defeating these other people. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with them pushing him, because when it comes, when you look at what's been achieved, whether it's $3.5 trillion for the omnibus spending bill, $1.7 trillion for the infrastructure bill, $1.5 trillion for the Inflation Reduction Act, $4 trillion in the debt ceiling deal, etc. Okay, you got all that done with a bipartisan majority. Great. Now, what about voting rights? Now, what about criminal justice reform? Now, what about all the other parts of the agenda that haven't gotten done? Let's have a conversation on how we can increase the base, increase the margins, turn some of these swing states and the blue states, get the 50 votes in the Senate and make the real changes. That's a conversation we deserve nationally. So I don't think having other people in the race is bad for Biden. I think they simply need to have their voices, work these things out. And the primary season very much is an opportunity for steel to sharpen steel, and that what's need to happen right now.
Aaron Connolly, your thoughts?
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy election season. We're talking about the 2024 presidential race with the horse race energy that we're all used to. So it feels like we're all back to school. And in reality, this race has been going on for a long time. And with the third-party candidates idea, this takes me back to, as my son calls, the olden days of the 1900s, when we had a true third party candidate in Ross Perot, right? And my dad was a big Ross Perot supporter, so I went to the rallies and I listened to all of the sides, and I was a strong Democrat even back then. So, but if we look at how a true third party, just in general, impacts the math in some of these swing states, and I think when we look at what our former secretary was articulating in that article in The Guardian, specifically Santita, there is a real danger that some of those votes, specifically in the swing states, and when we're looking at the system that we're in, we are not in a winner takes all system. The popular vote is not the determining factor. We have an electoral college, and those swing states matter, and that math makes a big difference. So when we have somebody diluting that, what we're calling the anti-Trump vote, not a pro-Biden vote, right? And those are different motivators for voters. It is what we did see with Hillary Clinton, though, and even to a certain extent in certain voting populations, right? And we have to look at who is going to be the main voting population and who's kind of the destabilizer. When we look at the last election, we saw young people coming out for Biden who, in numbers we didn't necessarily expect. They need to hold the line with that voting bloc and make sure those folks continue to show up and vote for President Biden and not a third party candidate in these swing states, right? So the math gets a little tricky in some of these states. When we look at somewhere like Michigan, though, that's in a very different position than it was in 2016 and even in the previous presidential cycle. When I'll let Kevin speak about Wisconsin. I know he has a lot of experience organizing and working in that environment. But when we see how much money and the influence that the new maps may have in the state of Wisconsin, that will impact, I think, Biden and Trump's chances more than anything. But my concern is, and we saw this already from the Biden group, we have to do more than just be the anti-Trump messaging, right? That didn't work for Hillary Clinton, and it's not going to work this time. We have to, whomever is going to win, has to talk about the policies that are going to make people's lives better or the ones that already are. Okay, it's not going to be enough to say we can't have Trump. That messaging is not going to fly, and a third party makes that type of messaging more difficult, right? Because it doesn't work.
So we're treating people who are running as Democrats who are Democrats. I know it because it happened to Jesse Jackson. We're treating them as third party. We're treating them as people who are interfering. No one registered more people to vote in the history of the American Republic than Jesse Jackson. And it was not enough. And these young people, with all due respect, Aaron, I don't think they came out for Biden. They came out against Trump. And look at where we are. He's like the most unpopular president in modern history. Now, the question is, how can we move the needle on that? But you're not going to move the needle by ignoring a constituency whom Cornel West and Robert Kennedy and Marianne Williamson and others speak to. Democrats need to figure that out.
Absolutely.
I mean, this autocracy that people keep talking about, Democrats are as guilty of that. The people on the left are as guilty of that as people on the right. And it needs to stop. Either you are for the democracy and you believe in the republic, or you do not. If you believe in democracy, if you want to steal the republic and make it strong, you're going to let everybody run. And then you know what we do? We negotiate at the end and we decide who's going to be the person that we're going to vote for in the fall. That way people are not angry. That way people feel like they've been heard. If you start pushing people out the race, people don't feel like they're heard. And guess what? They're not going to come out and vote for Biden. They won't. Because that's where people are. People don't trust any of these entities that we're supposed to respect. The Supreme Court, Congress, both houses, none of them. Nobody's respected. And we got to deal with that. But we'll be back in just a moment. Kevin Lampy, I can't wait to hear your take, and Dwight McKee on the other side of the break on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in a minute. You all keep talking. Please keep talking.
Santita, the other thing I wanted to say was the organizing apparatus that we see on the national level, from coordinated campaigns through the federal level, should be a little further along than we are at this point, right? And some of those conversations with those folks that are supporting Robert Kennedy, Cornel West, Marianne Williamson, or nobody yet, and are saying, I don't see somebody that is speaking for me. That those deep conversations happen not just at the doors, but with those organizers who are reaching out to voters via call, via text, seeing if they'll sit down for coffee and talk about not just getting involved, but why they're voting the way they are. And it's going to take more nuance organizing than we've seen, because we're with an electorate now that has more information than they've ever had. And while it might not always be correct information, there is very strong beliefs from that information, and it's going to take deeper organizing than we've seen not last, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to vote. But you also need to speak to what people want to hear.
Absolutely. And if you're not speaking to them at all, it gets a little harder,
No,
right?
it gets ridiculous. I'm telling you, I am insulted when you tell me that that someone needs to shut up and sit down. That's problematic for me, because growing up in Chicago, all I had was a protest. When Jesse Jackson and Alderman Bill Singer broke up the machine at the Democratic Convention in '72, they were not outliers. They were speaking to people who'd been locked out in Chicago and in American politics. And there's nothing wrong with that. Well, we continue to treat Cornel West, as an enemy of state. You're saying that he's helping Trump? No, he's speaking. He says things that I want to hear someone say on that stage. So is Robert Kennedy. So is Marianne Williamson. And now is the time for me to hear it. Move the needle. And don't assume, look, the way they pushed this man off the stage the other night. I mean, are you serious right now? In Hanoi? Oh, gosh. Kevin, Aaron, Dwight, Robert, there had to be a more graceful way of doing that. That was awful. 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 And it just made him look weak. That broke my heart. Because I was like, and yet we don't want him to debate? I mean, come on, y'all. That's crazy. Anybody, please, you all keep talking.
Well, the thing with the debates is I think there is an opportunity to talk about the record, right? I think in staying in the media, cable news cycle is very important. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, not having that stage to say, I am the president, you are not, no matter what else happens, that's a powerful place to be in, to remind everybody of that authority and that accomplishment. Losing the opportunity to do that, there is that risk reward balance. But what we see in the news cycle now, I think, as you mentioned, Santita, can certainly be improved with regard to how much we're speaking about President Biden's accomplishments.
They have to do something, because what they're doing right now is not working. And really, and telling people that, Cornel, you got to be very careful, because you offend people who like Cornel West, and Cornel West has a base. Robert Kennedy they have a base. They have a base of support who will be so turned off by this talk that, guess what? They will not come out in 2024, or they will vote someplace else. We're moving into 2024 where people are absolutely hurting. When some people are looking at, well, maybe we're going to have nuclear war. Some people are saying, wait a minute, in Lahaina, if you're conscious, even though they've had a media blackout on that, what happened in Lahaina and East Palestine could be us. No federal help for American citizens while we're shoveling money to Ukraine. That is offensive to me. I'm not saying that you can't help Ukraine. I haven't seen us trying to help African nations or Caribbean nations as much, but and ain't no but on that. But I'm tired of that. And I'm not alone. And I need someone on that stage talking about that. Hello? Is anyone there? Hello?
Yes.
We're on Facebook now. So I'm just saying, it bothers me. Because we keep acting as if, all these people walking around Reverend now, because, he's he's unwell, and he's, it's my goodness, what a run, that's a whole different story. He was an outlier, and people wanted to know, what do you want? That was on the cover of Time magazine. What does Jesse want? What is he doing here? Why are you here? What are you doing? Now, mind you, I've registered more people to vote, and they're going to vote for you. I've registered more people than anybody in the history of the Republic. And I'm a problem? Come on, y'all. That is not working. It's not working. When you're ushering him off the stage and playing some light jazz music, are you serious? You saw what happened in Hanoi, Aaron? That was awful. And that was a horrible commercial that I can see the Republicans playing over and over again. Y'all there? Hello? Ooh.
Yeah.
1 minute.
It was awful. It was awful.
Well, and to that point, Santita, you're right. The way this is being spoken about isn't a great narrative, right? That the president doesn't necessarily want to debate, doesn't want to talk about the hard issues, isn't ready to talk about the hard issues.
He doesn't look like he's capable, Aaron, and that's a problem.
Right.
People don't care about his
30
age.
seconds.
Donald Trump is old as he's a day younger than God, as is, and Bernie Sanders is a half a minute younger than the Lord. People want them to run. They don't mind old folks running. They don't like impaired people running. And that has to
10
be dealt
seconds.
with. Okay, stand by. I thank you, Alex. Oh.
You're welcome. Stand by.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's talk, and I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're talking about whether or not people other than the presumptive nominees should be running, particularly Biden. Robert Reich, the Clinton labor secretary, said, look, third-party candidates like Cornel West, and even though he's not third party, he is certainly an insurgent candidate, Robert Kennedy, and even Marianne Williamson, they are hurting Biden, and they are guaranteeing a Trump win in 2024. Do you think that's true? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. I want to hear what your thoughts are. You've been hearing mine, and you've just heard from Attorney Aaron Connolly and Attorney Robert Patillo. We're going to hear from Dwight McKee and Kevin Lampe in just a couple of minutes, but let us get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, I have 66 degrees. It is chilly. I think autumn is here. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 65 degrees. And in both places, it will be partly cloudy. In the NFL, perhaps a career-ending injury for Aaron Rodgers, one of the great ones, everybody. Oh, boy. But the Jets were able to pull it out with a miracle off the bench. But the Jets 22, the Bills 16. We will see how Aaron Rodgers' recuperation goes, everybody. In WNBA, the Lynx and the Sky had the night off. In Major League Baseball, the Cubs 5, the Rockies 4, the Rays 7, the Twins 4, and the Royals will be meeting the White Sox today. Let me take the opportunity to thank Alex Castaneda, who is my board operator here at WCPT. Helps to keep things going. Every day we had some challenges at the beginning, and he got in my ear, Miss Jackson, we need to work this out. He did. He called Jim Addy. I want to thank you, Jim Addy, for working this out. But I want to thank you in particular way, Alex, because you're on point in studio for keeping a cool head and getting us back up on the air. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
for
much.
That. Oh, you are very welcome. Can everybody hear your lovely voice? I hope that they can, because I really appreciate you. And it's a joy to work
Thank you
with
very much, Ms. Jackson.
You are very welcome. It's a joy to work with you. A joy to work with you. You know what we have as we talk about these campaigns, money is at the heart of a lot of the angst that's driving this campaign season. And I want you to know that there is hope even in this time. If you want to get a piece of the American dream, you need to be a home buyer, a home owner. And many people feel that they don't have that opportunity. But guess what? There is an opportunity for you to be a home buyer. Now, guess what? A homeowner. If you have not owned a home over the past 3 years, might have owned one 4 years ago, but over the past 3 years, there's an opportunity now for you to own a home. You need to call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. They're your trusted local lender. First-time home buyers continue to become a smaller and smaller part of the market. And Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac want to turn that around. It's alarming because having homeowners in America stabilizes America. So they want to incentivize first-time home buyers with substantially lower rates. And so if you live in the Chicago area and the total household income in your home is below $105,700, and if you have not owned a home in the past 3 years, call Team Hochberg to see if you qualify for this program. You can go to 56david.com, 56david.com, or call them at 855-56-DAVID. Now, if you don't just need to call them about this, if your money's getting a little tight, if you think that I might miss a mortgage payment, they can help you. If you think that you're looking at foreclosure, if things are getting tight, and they're tight for a lot of people, tell them what your issue is, and the people at Team Hochberg will help you. They even have a credit card that is helping to pull people out of financial instability. That is to say, if you have a credit score that's in the 500s or the 600s, this credit card will enable you within 6 months to raise your credit score by maybe 100 points. So please call Team Hochberg. They have an array of financial products that can be very, very helpful to you. I want you to call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com and call them today. Everybody, what do you think? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278 and talk to me. Do you think that Robert Reich is correct, the Clinton labor secretary? And he means well. I just disagree with him. He says that, the Green Party, no labels, no labels, they are Republicans. So this no labels thing that they're doing, please, no, they are Republicans, and they have more than that. They have a right-wing agenda. They're just taking a label off of it. That's cute and smart. But he said that even Cornel West's group, the People's Party, the Green Party, that these are front groups for Trump. Is that fair? Do you think that these people should get out the race? He's saying that they are going to take votes away from Biden and guarantee a Trump victory in 2024. What are your thoughts? Call me at 773-763-9278. Kevin Lampe, what say you?
Well, there is a lot to unpack here, and I'll go back in my own personal voting history. In the first time I'm ever able to vote in the presidential election in 1980, I made a huge mistake, and I voted for John Anderson, and where I should have voted for Jimmy Carter. And we need to break this down into different pieces of this discussion. So we need to look at it from the point of view that our system right now, flawed as it is, and flawed as the Electoral College is, these are the cards we're dealt. When you play a game of cards, you only get 52 cards. You can't take them out unless you're playing pinochle, but you can't change. This is what the system is and the structure is. So, third party will not be effective in this country until there's a massive exodus from the two other parties. In order for a third party to actually have an impact on American life, third party must have, 2 or 3 senators, 20, 30 congresspeople, 4 or 5 governors, 1,000 state reps and state senators, a couple thousand local elected officials to build the infrastructure that's necessary to win a national election. What the labor secretary is saying is that no labels campaign right now is running as a third party. That changes the math. Anybody that's running on a third party, it changes the math of the election. And we have to look at the math. If I want a Democrat to be president the next 4 years after this current term, I don't want a Republican. But I know that the voting behavior is such that it goes back. Al Gore, we lost Al Gore because of Ralph Nader's and Jill Stein's insurgency. Not insurgency, their third party candidacy. If you want to remodel the House You can't just throw bricks to the windows. You got to move inside and change walls. That's what Reverend Jackson did. That's other people. I've worked on insurgent campaigns within the Democratic Party. I helped to run Ambassador Carol Mosey Vaughn when she ran for president. I want people like Marianne Williamson, Robert Kennedy, people that want to run within the Democratic primary to have their opportunity to talk to Democratic voters. And as a party, we then nominate somebody for president. But movements that are outside of the two parties, the reality is what's going to happen is the Labor Secretary points out, Robert Wright says, the Republicans are going to win, and it does us no good. Because when the Republicans won the last time, they packed the Supreme Court, and I was stuck in the Supreme Court. That is going to ruin lives for generations.
Well, Dwight McKee, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, I think it's a misnomer to call it a third party. There's really right now, it's the second party. There's only one party. It's, it's one bird with two wings. It's a left wing and a right wing, but it's the same bird. It's two horses carrying the same chariot. It's only one party, and what the difference is which corporations are going to be best represented when the budget is divided or when legislations are passed. Is which corporation and who they're favorable to is going to walk away with, with the government contracts. Robert Strauss was the head of both parties, which tells you there's really only one party, and each one of them represent different corporate interests. And so it really becomes a battle of the prevailing corporate interest, whether it's going to be Pfizer or it's going to be, Bayer, or whether it's going to be Boeing or whether it's going to be General Electric. That's where the rubber meets the road, is which one of those corporations are going to be the dominant corporation, being able to use the party and the party resources to their own advantage. But basically what you're talking about in America are patrician families who are of a high position and influence, who are creating a public narrative that ultimately works on behalf of themselves, their corporate interest, and their families. Whether it is Parsons, what's his name? Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, who is part of the Swanson family, or it is John Kerry, that's part of the Hines family, or it's the boy from the Vandekut, the family on CNN. But these are family interests who has these corporations, and all of these guys are billionaires, and that's what they would represent them. Now, what Cornel West and that crowd represents is really a different vision, a different interest. Their interest is more the people's interest. And they're fighting so that the people can have more equity in this economy and this society. And so they become anathema to these corporate interests, because the presumption is that the guys who are already in charge are in charge by birthright, that they have a right to the tree of life, and nobody but them should have access to that. And anybody other themselves is an interloper. And that's extremely sad. I mean, that should be almost criminal. Is that if democracy only works if it runs past me, and it's only democratic if I win, whether you shoot Democratic or Republican, that is anathema to the American way. Other countries do not work like that. Other countries have parliamentary systems where you may have 4, 5, 6, 10 parties who are all who share the government. The United States is one of the only countries in the world where there are only 2 parties that share the government. But if you in Israel or South Africa, or there may be 10 different parties, and then you negotiate power between the different parties who represent different interests. And so again, it's all the pretext. It's all one different party representing.
You have two callers.
Interests who feel like they have a birthright to be in charge. It all comes from privilege and presumption.
Well, let me go to Brian from Joliet. Brian, what's on your mind today, hon?
Good morning, Santita. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
I just wanted to weigh in the sense of I'm not online, and I rely on cable and radio, and I would like very much to hear more from what little bit I've heard from Dr. Cornel West, Marianne Williamson, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Quite frankly, I'd like to see a draft Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez movement going on because whether or not those who are in the race right now are going to win or not, they raise really important questions, raise searching questions that apparently most are not. Democracy Now! I think does a good job. They had recently Bishop William Barber, excellent man, had excellent words to say. PoorPeoplesCampaign.org, I believe. But I say I'm not online, so if I wasn't watching Democracy Now!, I would have missed him. And I think others deserved to hear more of the other candidates. They raise searching questions that others aren't.
Brian, I want to thank you for that. So you think they should stay in the race, even in the fall?
Well, I believe that they're entitled to, have their messages heard, and I don't see. For example, the race between Gore and the second George W. Bush. Some claim that it was the fault of the Ralph Nader. I don't believe that was the case. I believe it was the Supreme Court ending the recount, which caused Al Gore to lose. So I don't have a problem with having other candidates stay in there as long as they have good messages. And who knows, maybe one of them will win.
We'll see. Brian, I want to thank you for that. Ted, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Santita.
Hey, Ted.
I want to say I agree with everything you've been saying. And I just want to say, if the DNC doesn't open up this primary and allow Robert Kennedy and Marianne Williamson to debate with Joe Biden, they are not going to win. Joe Biden is not going to win this election. And I don't care how much the mainstream
third caller
tries to push Joe Biden. He's not competent enough to be president, especially a year from now and for 4 years after that. No way. So they need to open up that primary, give Robert Kennedy a chance. In my opinion, he's the only person running as a Democrat that can win right now as a Democrat. And if he gets shut out and the DNC shuts him out, then I'm going to go vote for Cornel West, because Cornel West is probably the best candidate. I don't care if he's third party. I don't really care if people say, then you're going to be voting for Trump. I think Biden's just as dangerous as Trump. Biden could get us into a nuclear war. I mean, people are like, oh, that's not going to happen. They don't know. We don't know that, what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, it's very dangerous. And so I think you're right about we need to give these people platforms and let their voices be heard. And if you try to shut these people out and think that we have no options, that we just have to vote for Joe Biden, you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're not going to win, and we're not going to let you win.
Let me go to Maria. Maria, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Santita. How are you? Hello, guest.
My sweetie. It's good hearing your voice.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm listening, and I'm listening to the 52 car analogy, which I totally agree with. I was listening to what Mr. McKee was saying. I don't think he really answered the question. He simply was explaining the purposes of the third party or the no-name party or whatever, the ones that are outside the Democrat and the Republican parties, okay? And, these are all titles. And we all have the right to vote whichever way we want, but we need to be aware that, I agree, the 52 car analogy where this is the system we have right now. This is about chess. This is about how strategic we need to be in voting for who we think will be the best candidate, considering all the candidates are available. I definitely do not want a Republican, because every time we have a Republican, it chips away at our democracy. It chips away at our financial future and livelihood. So, and to say that President Biden has been horrible and this and that is, they're not really looking at his record. He's done a lot. The biggest one was the infrastructure. So he's done a lot. And it's been, actually, I can wake up in the morning and not worry about, what's going to happen now, where the previous administration had me, considering that, wondering what the heck's going to happen now. You talk about having post-traumatic stress syndrome, it's like, I'm just glad I know. It was bad enough with the pandemic, but to have this person,
but look,
that he did all these crazy things, at the very beginning when he wouldn't allow folks from the Middle East to come in. They were separated from their families. And separating the kids, and then creating this tax reform that really isn't a reform. It's an enrichment for the rich people. Because I know I'm not getting a break. So I just feel that we have to work with what we have right now. And I agree with the 52 car analogy. This is what we have. It's a chess game. Let's not play checkers. Chess game, because we have to be strategic.
Well, you know what? We're gonna have John Nichols come up, but I want to hear. I'd like to hear you, Kevin Lampe, and Dwight McKee. Dwight, you're gonna have to respond to Maria, and Aaron Connolly and Robert Patillo. Give us some closing thoughts here, because this is something that people are talking about. Should the Cornel West and the Marianne Williamsons and the Robert Kennedy in particular, and Cornel West, if they run, will they deliver a victory to Donald Trump? Is that even the right question to be asking? I want to hear what your thoughts are. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Let's talk about it right here on the Santita Jackson Show. Oh, you all keep talking, please.
Well, okay, so Santita, I want to say something here that I can say because we're in family.
Okay, but remember, we're on Facebook and YouTube, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm aware of that.
Okay.
But I think one of the things that we're demonstrating by our conversation this morning is we're talking about the horse race and not the horses. If we had a 2-hour discussion where we talked about, 30 minutes about what Marianne Williamson wants to do, 30 minutes about Cornel West, what he wants to do, 30 minutes about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and what he wants to do. We are also playing into the game here of talking about the horse race, not the horses. And that's the reason why the media is talking about the horse race, not the horses, is because it's far more difficult and requires more work and energy to talk about the issues that talk about the rules of the game. And I think that's the that is something that we all need to be pushing more, is that we need to spend time talking about and giving the airspace and the podium and the stage to stand on for people to explain why they're running for president. And I think that our problem is this has been going on for decades. Political reporting is sports reporting, and it's gotten away from being policy reporting. And it's more interested in how much money somebody has raised. Ballot access. I mean, do they have the team to put enough petitions together in order to get onto the ballot? We spend the time talking about the polling, and we spend precious little time talking about the issues as and what's their approach is to be able to say to all the candidates, okay, what are you going to do about the environment? What are you going to do about economic development? What are you going to do about returning citizens? What are you going to do about these things? And the more time that those of us who are engaged in the discussions, when we're spending time talking about the race and not about the people, I think that's where we have to start to affect some change.
I think we've got to talk about both, because I know when Reverend Jackson ran for president, and we were not able to make all the reforms that we wanted to make, but we did make a big difference. I can hear something in the background, everybody. The thing is, you got to do both. You've got to talk about the process, because when Reverend ran in 1984, what we found is that most Black people had to register 2 and 3 times to register once. You had to register once in your locality, then you had to go to the county seat to confirm your election, and people were still purged. So process for us is still an issue, but you're not going to be able to get to any of that.
1 minute.
You don't have
we have
these
2 other
people.
callers. I'm going to send you their info now.
You're not going to have it. You're not going to be able to get to any of this. Kevin and Aaron and Dwight and Robert, if you don't have these people on the stage talking, and not just talking and running. These people need to work for folks' votes. See, I'm tired of Republicans, Democrats assuming that they have my vote, particularly, and in this current iteration of history, Democrats. But I feel that way about everybody, because I think everybody is. I don't think Americans are really getting what we deserve. We're not.
And if I could respond to the sister that called in,
yes,
isn't they losing the 52 cards, but if 50 of the cards are the Queen of Spades?
10 seconds.
Even hand. The only thing you can choose is the Queen of Spades.
Stand by.
Okay,
because
John
it's all in the deck.
Well, stand by very quickly.
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay, stand by.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, it's John Nichols time on the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station and AM 950 radio. But John, you're walking into, this is what happens when you pick these topics that people want to talk about. So I've got some other callers who want to talk about this, but I also think we need to talk about what's happening in Wisconsin with the Supreme Court, because the Republicans said they were going to really try to impeach the people's choices, and that's what they're doing. But Robert Reich did write an op-ed piece, and I've got Dwight McKee and Kevin Lampe and Aaron Connolly and Attorney Robert Patillo, who are speaking to the fact that he said, look, no labels, People's Party, Third Party, Green Party, that they are really front persons, they're front groups for Trump. And some people are saying, no, that's not fair. And so let me go to just very quickly, let me get some calls in because I want you to respond to that too, John. Because sure. You've been I met you on an outlier race because people were wondering what Jesse Jackson was doing in the race in 1983. And we were like, we're registering more people than have ever been registered in history. What do you mean, what are we doing here? We're helping you. And there was nothing but pushback. Let me go to Dynamo Dave. Dynamo Dave.
Hey, good morning, the sweet sunshine of Chicago. How you doing?
Oh, it's always a joy to hear my Dynamo Dave. What's up, sweetie? What's on your mind today?
So a couple things. One thing, is, sometimes autocracy is hiding in plain sight. And we have that in the Democratic Party. Both parties are just business parties. They run as a business. And businesses don't run on a democracy. Now, Biden is supposed to uphold the Constitution he swore. And how does the Constitution begin? We the people. Well, we the people should be able to have Marianne Williamson and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. debate Biden. If Biden's so superior or so good, he's going to win those debates and he'll win all those primaries. What is he afraid of? Well, they can't have him look weak. But anyway, I was just saying that this is an autocracy. The parties, both of them, or at least the Democratic one, is behaving like one by shutting out other voices. And it is supposed to be we, the people. And that's why these things, the Green Party and other parties, have popped up, because these parties, like one of their esteemed guests pointed out, they're focused on the people.
Dynamo Dave has spoken. I'm hearing from people, and you all want to hear an open process. You want people running. Chappelle, what's on your mind today?
Thank you so much, Santita. And, I've been listening and reading the comments, and I am still angry. I'm sorry, but Democrats told me, hold your nose, vote for Joe. We're going to get you justice and policing. We're going to get you civil rights reform. We're going to do it all. We just need you to vote. And then they told us to vote again. And for Georgia, give us the Senate. We're going to hold your nose. We're going to do everything. We're going to give you everything that we promised you, Black people. That's what they told us. Now they want to say they don't want to do it. Joe doesn't want to do the executive orders. And so now they want to come back to us and they want us to be Captain Save Joe again. I'm not doing it. The thing is that he has to fulfill his promises to Black and brown people. That's why the Black and brown people have jumped off this boat. That's why we're looking for other candidates to support, because he has lied to us several times, and you want to lie to us again and expect us to believe. You can't continue to piss on me and make things right.
Do you think that
you know what you're doing? You know exactly what you're doing, and they continue to do it. The Democratic Party continues to tell Black people that we are going to support your agenda, and they renege every time. Enough is enough. So if he wants this vote, he better sign some executive orders. He better make sure that we get what we have been promised. And that's it. That's it. I'm not going to save him this time. He's going to sink or swim. He better get it together.
Do you think that having Cornel West or Robert Kennedy in the race, do you think that will hurt Biden? Or am I asking the right question?
I don't even care at this point. I don't even care at this point, because the reality is they're speaking to the needs of the people. And the people have voices that need to be heard. So if Joe Biden wants the voice and the people to vote for him, he better start speaking to the needs of the people and putting in those executive orders to help the people. It's very clear, because if he supports justice and policing, if he supports civil rights, it helps him and it helps the Democratic Party. You cannot tell me why this has not been done in the last 4 years. This will only protect him. If he's not doing something that protects him, that tells me he don't care about himself being hurt. So we don't really want this.
So would it, in the fall, if you had, if it were a super tight race, I can hear something in the background. I need someone to mute. If we have a super tight race, would you then say, okay, I like Cornel West, I like Robert Kennedy, but the numbers favor a Republican or a Democrat? What would you do?
I'm going to vote my conscience, because me voting for the Democratic Party has not changed my circumstances. So we have done that several times, several election cycles, and nothing has changed for Black and brown people. So us voting for Trump us voting for Biden has not changed our circumstances. So I'm going to vote my conscience. I'm not going to let the Democratic Party trick me again into supporting a candidate who does not support me. And that is what Black and brown people are saying. Enough is enough. And so, Kevin, I ask that you take this back to the Biden administration and whoever is in charge, that he needs to listen and sign those executive orders, because I'm not falling for the okie doke again. I'm not. So I am the only one person, but I speak for millions. And he's seeing it as his numbers are eroding in the polls. This is the reality of what he has not done. So we are clear on what his position is, and we're showing him our position. That's the bottom line.
Kevin, you want to respond to Chappelle?
Absolutely, and that message is being delivered. I believe in my everything I know from my connections with the party is Joe Biden is listening and is working for what needs to be done. And there is, we have, but part of the challenge in the reality of politics is there's some things to change so we can do more. We can accomplish these things. We need to kill the filibuster in the U.S. Senate. We need to if we're not going to kill the filibuster, we then need to get 60 to move things forward. We also need to, across the country, we need to flip state legislatures from Republican to Democrat, because that's what's taking things down the wrong path. We need to be involved in school board elections, like we did in Illinois, where we put a stop to people that were the Santas and the Trump crowd that were trying to push into school boards, banning books and everything. For instance, we're lucky to have state elected leaders in like Illinois, like J.B. Pritzker and Alexi Giannoulis. Alexi Giannoulis is going to Capitol Hill this week to talk about banned books, because these are the things that are chipping away at our democracy. We've got to be able to move. The movement has to take over and is poised to do this, but we need to change some things. We need to make sure that we have Democratic legislatures so they're not taking away women's right to choose. They're not gaming the system so to disenfranchise voters, as they're doing in many states across the country. We've got to change this. The two-party system is what we have, and so let's use it. Let's get within the two-party, in the local parties. Let's participate and show up. Then we can affect the change that we all know we need to do.
John,
what I'm saying is that he needs to sign the executive order. We know that only will last on his term, but that shows us that he is with us. So I don't care about getting this 60 votes, because they had it and they did nothing with it. When Obama had 60 votes, he didn't do nothing. He was too scared. So I don't want to hear that. What I want to see is action. And this is something he can do without anyone else but himself and a stroke of a pen. Tell him to sign an executive order, and then he can come back and try to talk to us.
Very quickly, Dwight, before I go to John Nichols, because John, you've heard this before. I can't wait to hear you weigh in. I need if somebody is in a car or something, please go on mute. Dwight McKee, your thoughts before we go over to John? You were trying to say something?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm totally with Chappelle. And that's why I was saying that it don't matter if you got 52 cards, if all of them are the Queen of Spades. They're giving us one card to choose from. And the fact they cut all the debates out, they're protecting this president, turning into a coordination rather than an election, making sure that he don't debate because the people don't want to see how weak he really is. And my question to John would be, he's been in it 4 years. How come he hasn't done all these things that he wants to do now? Why he has not done them in the last 4 years? Because he is no different no different than Trump. He's just more gracious in it. And there's some cultural issues that Trump is locked into on the right that we against, the abortion issue and the conventional issues. But when it comes to the reality of the politics and the distribution of goods and services, ain't no basic difference. Trump tries to give it to his crowd. Biden tries to give it to his crowd. and we're lost in the middle. And the people that are speaking our interest, they won't even let them on the stage to debate our interest. It's all a sham. I'm with your Pearl on this.
John Nichols, talk to me. Your thoughts. I mean, because every call after call after call after call after call, we're hearing frustration, right? And we saw this in 83, in 87, 88, 84, 87, 88. When we ran, we saw it with Bernie. We've seen it. And now Americans we're in a different place than we were a couple of generations before. I mean, people are not doing as well economically, socially. I think, we are like nearing a tipping point. There's just a lot going on. I feel like there's just something different this time, or maybe we're moving into something. John?
Sure. Look, we've been through a lot, and that's the thing to begin with. I think we often imagine that we're on the same playing field as we were in the past. We're not. We just went through a global pandemic that left more than 1 million Americans dead, millions of people with lingering health challenges that in some cases are overwhelming, that completely unsettled our economy, and that has sort of restructured how and where we live to an extent that is jarring. Cities are becoming unaffordable, people in rural areas feeling more and more neglected than ever. And then we throw on top of this the rise of all sorts of technologies. I mean, we could run through the whole list with robotification and with automation, but also with AI technologies, which we know are going to displace a lot of people. And the average American isn't stupid. I mean, they know all this is in play. They know it's all coming at them. And so when Joe Biden or anybody else says to them, yeah, you've got it better than ever, or Bidenomics is working at a level that, you can't even begin to understand how great it is. People don't see that. They don't feel that in any sense. Now, this is not uncommon, right? Politicians always, promise you more, tell you more than is real. But it does come back at Biden because we're also in a different communication sphere. The fact is we communicate differently than we did in the past via social media, via all sorts of other platforms, and we don't have a lot of the local media we once had. So you put this all together, and my sense is that the mistake the Biden people are making is assuming say things loudly enough, everybody will believe them. And, say Bidenomics is working, and everybody will believe that. And if they don't believe it, we haven't yelled it loud enough. No, the reality is that it hasn't worked effectively for the great mass of people, and it isn't working for the great mass of people. And so how do you deal with that? There are a lot of responses that Biden can have and that the Democrats can have, some of them very practical, some of them very appropriate. But they've got to go out and speak to people in a clear and an explanatory way rather than just in a sloganeering way. And one of the places to do that is in debates and on the campaign trail. And to my mind, my biggest concern about Joe Biden's reelection campaign at this point is that it is so aimed toward the November 2024 campaign that it is missing that period leading up to it. Today I'll be in New Hampshire looking at the primary fight up there. And, Biden is talking about not entering the New Hampshire primary because they restructured the primary schedule, so South Carolina is supposed to be first. Well, it's fine if South Carolina is first, and I understand all the dynamics there and all the politics of it. But I will tell you this, if Joe Biden skips New Hampshire and other people are competing there, you're going to be in a very difficult situation politically because the fact of the matter is that New Hampshire is going to have a primary. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is going to be on the ballot. Marianne Williamson is going to be on the ballot. And also, all of the Republicans are going to be competing over on their side. And so if Biden doesn't show up in New Hampshire, if he says, well, I've got some rule that tells me I can't go there. This is the president of the United States, most powerful person in the world, telling you, I can't come to your state because there's some notation in a notebook someplace that tells me I shouldn't go there. People see through that. They see that as bogus. And so my sense is that Biden is playing by a set of rules that he thinks are beneficial to him, but in fact, I think are harmful, dangerous. And if Biden doesn't wake up to the very real sense of frustration, the very real, desire for a debate, desire for a real discourse, if he doesn't kind of connect with that, he's going to sacrifice much of 2024. The media coverage, the energy, the attention will go elsewhere. And by the time he gets the Democratic nomination and starts competing in the fall with that message of, well, at least I'm better than Trump, an awful lot of people will have gone to other places. And so if you like Joe Biden, if you like him a lot, if you absolutely want him to win in 2024, what you should tell him to do is to listen to Shapiro, right? Because what she is saying is go and do some stuff, deliver some stuff, get out there and make this real, make this candidacy something that people can wrap their arms around or at least connect with intellectually, emotionally, and in other ways. If he fails to do that, and that includes debates and things of that nature, if he fails to make that effort, then I think there's a very real danger politically. So I don't see a need for a great divide between the people who, don't like Biden for whatever reason, but also don't like Trump, and the people who like Biden, right? At the end of the day, the solution is the same. If you want Biden to be a viable candidate who can beat Donald Trump in November of 2024, then you have got to get him out on the trail right now. Tomorrow in New Hampshire, when I'm up there, I'll see Bobby Kennedy Jr. campaigning. Mm-hmm. I'll see other people campaigning, but I won't see Biden. And
also you can vote for Cornell. But you can also vote for Cornell. You left that off the table.
No, he's
well, I didn't leave it off the table, didn't leave it off the table because Cornell's not running the primaries. Cornel West is running as a November candidate, right? And so what you've got here is a two-step process. The primaries are the process by which Joe Biden claims the Democratic nomination. He is, of course, likely to get it. But the question is, does he claim it with an energy and with a focus and with some sort of, sense that he's actually gone out and done something, or does he simply claim it because they've worked the rules in a way to favor him? If he claims it with energy and focus and, actually does something, then as you get into that November competition, yes, Cornel West will be there as, one of the great advocates and one of the great thinkers of our time. And Cornel West will do as well as Joe Biden allows him to do effectively.
Do you think he's a danger
to
Joe Biden? Do you think he will facilitate Trump? I mean, Reich is saying that he will facilitate.
I understand what Reich is saying, and I respect it. I have a different view regarding third-party candidates. Third-party candidates do as well as major party candidates allow them to do, right? And so if a third-party candidate is out there offering a point of view, offering ideas, campaigning with a vision, if the major parties, if one or the other of the major parties takes up that vision, embraces it, amplifies it, then the third-party candidate won't do that well. They aren't going to be a danger. They aren't going to be a threat. On the other hand, if the major party candidate runs cautious, without a vision, without strength, then the third-party candidate's going to do better. The system is rigged, right? The system is rigged to favor the major parties. There's no question of that. Media is biased toward the major parties. And so the third-party candidate is always going to have a burden. But that burden is overcome, at least to some extent, when the major parties fail, when they fail to step up to the occasion. And I always use this example. In 1948, when Harry Truman was running for re-election for president of the United States, Henry Wallace was running to the left of him. Now, Strom Thurmond was running to the right, so he's going to lose the South. But Henry Wallace was running to the left of him, former vice president, very progressive candidate. And Henry Wallace was saying, we've got to address racism in this country. We've got to address economic inequality in this country. We've got to try for peace rather than a Cold War. Wallace's message was very resonant. So what did Truman do? Truman met with A. Philip Randolph, and grudgingly, because I don't think Truman was any great hero, but Truman recognized, well, I got to integrate the military, and I've got to support, some fair labor practices laws that at least minimally begin to embrace civil rights. And I've got to go and campaign in black neighborhoods, was something that previous Democratic candidates had not done. And so Truman recognized he had a threat from the left and went out there and actively, took up at least some of the mantle, at least took up some of the message. What happened? Black voters who were at that time in the great, migration moving to the north in places like New York City and Los Angeles and Chicago and Detroit, black voters voted disproportionately for Truman. They elected Truman. He won because he recognized that if he didn't do things, people were going to vote for a third-party candidate. And so this is the same thing that that Biden has to understand, not merely with black voters, but also with young voters, with people of color from all sorts of backgrounds, with all sorts of folks who are concerned about the circumstance, frustrated with where we're at. If Biden doesn't recognize early, not in November, not in October of next year, but early on, that this frustration is there and that it's real, and if he doesn't act affirmatively to address it, and with tangible progress that he can do through executive orders and other actions, he runs a very real risk of stumbling and falling. And it's not going to be Cornel West's fault that happens, right? Because people would find somebody else to vote for. One last thing I'll say, when people talk about the 2016 election, some people try to blame Jill Stein, who was the Green Party candidate, because she got a portion of votes in some states. But one thing to understand is that the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson, he got even more votes. And if you look at the internal polling, he got a lot of votes from Democrats. And so if people are frustrated with a candidate, if they're not into that candidate, it doesn't matter who the third party candidate is. People are going to find some other way either to stay home or to vote for somebody else. And so the answer is not to go out and blame or point fingers at third party candidates or to, grumble about primary challengers and stuff like that. The point is to listen to the frustration and go out and do things that will actually get people to focus on you as a candidate. That's the challenge Joe Biden has at this point.
John Nichols of Nation magazine co-authored with Senator Bernie Sanders, the New York Times bestseller. It's okay to be mad about capitalism. It's okay. Get that book. You don't want to miss it. And and stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. John's got to leave us, but I want to hear from you, Kevin and Aaron, if you can stay with me for a minute, and Robert and Dwight. Let's speak to this. Look, I want progress, but progress in the correct direction. I want to end poverty. I want to end war. I want a peace dividend. I want everyone to have the resources so that they can become actualized and be all that they can be. You can't do that when 60% of your budget's going to the Pentagon. It's just not going to happen. And you can't make any movement on any of this if and unless you have people in the race who are articulating these positions, these different positions. And you need to speak to the frustrations of Dynamo Dave and Chapearl and Maria, who's saying, hey, this is the hand that we've been dealt. But you got to deal with everybody. That's the tough part about dealing with politics. It's tough. It's tough business. So everybody stay right here. And John, I want you to come back before the week is out, because I need you to talk about what's happening in Wisconsin. Because these Republicans don't fail to plan, they never plan to fail. They are doing to the Supreme Court in Wisconsin what they promised they would do. Let me know if you can come tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. Let me know.
All right. I look forward to
that.
it, my friend and I.
Because that's a very real threat to the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. They're doing it.
They are.
I mean, they are. I know you're running, but they are doing what they said they would do. After this woman won, 55 to 45% of the vote? She won 55% of the vote. Now they're moving to remove her. I mean, what? Oh boy! But this is what they do. They are the great disruptors at this turn of history. At some point, I just want everybody. I don't care whether you're red, blue, purple, yellow, green, People's Party, whatever. I want fairness. I don't like losing. But what makes me grind my teeth at night is being treated unfairly. See, if I lose fairly and squarely, I'll just go back and continue to retool and perfect my argument so that I can win you over the next time or the next time or the next time. So I'm good with that. But when you treat people unfairly, you leave bad tastes in their mouths. And that's what's dangerous now. We're having a moment, Dwight and Kevin and Robert and Aaron, in which people are willing to throw everything away. And perhaps rebuild. So, Kevin, why don't you respond to what you heard from John Nichols? Are you still there, Kevin?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, good.
The point I'd like to make is we actually do have three parties in this country. We have the Democrats, the Republicans, and the I Don't Vote Party. And the I Don't Vote Party is the largest party in this country. That is our job as people that want to move society forward, is to keep working on engaging the I Don't Vote Party members to participate and show up. The ballot is not an essay question. It's multiple choice. And the more people participate, the better our society is. And the reality is, when more people from the I Don't Vote Party show up, Democrats win. So it's incumbent on our party to participate in more voter motivation and voter engagement activities, so we can have more people involved, and in turn, that will reflect more of the beliefs and the values of the people in this country.
Aaron Connolly, your thoughts? Is Aaron still there? I think Aaron.
So sorry.
Oh, okay. No.
I am.
I'm running this morning because I
I
finally got an appointment to get my passport renewed, and I'm gonna have to.
Oh, good.
It takes months.
Good. Well, I think I'm thinking about this whole talk about the party system from the lens of my 6 years in the desert in Arizona, and that's a state where we have the largest portion of the voting population, right? Kevin's right. The non-voters take up the biggest one. But in Arizona, there is a true independent section of the voters that take up more than a third of the electorate. And so the way that messaging has to be framed was completely different than when we look at some of the even swing states or traditional red to blue states, right? And what we see with that population is, the same folks that cross over when we see third-party voters that are really focused on issues, that are usually really, really informed, or folks that don't necessarily have a fundamental trust of government systems and structures, and want more of a gravitas candidate in some cases, even on the federal level, right? So we see independents in Arizona, to Kevin's point, holding local level offices, running robust campaigns at the county level, and independents have huge weight depending on where they choose in national elections in that state. So I think when I think about that and think about what is possible, the way that that's done is not necessarily going to a separate party in that state, right? It's holding that kind of middle independent spirit and aligning with the party and local candidates that resonate, right? But it will take so much work to get a true third party system at a national level in a country like the United States. And what we have and what we see within our parties are these bigger coalitions within the party system. And that dilutes the power from the people and keeps it within the elite. So, I'm a big fan of the parliamentary government and could go into all of this all day, Santita. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this a little bit. But I think we need to talk about what we want from those local elections, right? Where do we want to start from the bottom up? As Kevin mentioned, holding the line in some school board races. In the city of Chicago, we have elected school board for the first time coming up. there are very important roots that we need to put down for what we want to grow in the future. And that starts at the local level. So
And people need to be
we have to
heard.
hold the line on those as well.
Right.
Amen.
And people need to be heard. And when you start shutting people out, when you start shutting people down, folks won't vote, or they will do protest votes. People are becoming more sophisticated, and they are not feeling what's happening here. Robert Patillo, your thoughts?
Well, I think the part of the issue that the Biden campaign is afraid of is that ultimately they're afraid of black. If they get up there and support black people, they're afraid it's going to scare away those middle America, Rust Belt, Scranton, Pennsylvania voters that the Democrats, for some reason, are just dedicated to bringing back to the party. They've yet to understand and to admit to the fact that the demographics of America are changing. The base of the Democratic Party is no longer in the Rust Belt, it's in the Sun Belt. Places like North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada are going to be the future of the party. And that if you continue to try to push together this New Deal coalition as it existed nearly 100 years ago, that you're going to be left behind. And the only thing that has maintained the establishment of the Democratic Party has been this Trump era, because people voting against Trump, Democrats are misreading as people voting in favor of them. And this is why we have so many, geriatric candidates, because they are unwilling to just simply turn the keys over to a new generation. Remember, they had to claw the Speaker of the House away. So they're not afraid to talk to voters, and that's a positive thing for democracy. It's one thing to simply talk about wanting to be the party of democracy, the party of voters, the party of the people, as Democrats do. As another thing to actually do that. And these candidates pushing Joe Biden back towards the center and back towards the left, because they have governed very much as a center-right administration thus far, being pushed back to the center and back to the left is a good thing when it comes to turning out people during the general election. So they should be thanking God for people like Marianne Williamson and Kennedy and West for actually putting some energy into this party. And I'm hoping that they realize the need to actually address many of those problems and actually putting forward some policies and executive orders that will motivate and energize the base, because otherwise you are setting this up for another Trump return.
Well, I mean, Dwight McKee, your closing thought.
I think it's almost inevitable that because they transferred all the energy to to Trump's campaign, is that Trump was kind of wading in the water until all his indictments came down, and he became a universally claimed martyr. And now he has even have many of the black men votes on his side, because they see him now almost as an extension of themselves, because they understand what, in their minds, is unjust charges look like. And so now they identify with him more than they identify with Biden. Because they see Biden as the privileged one and Trump as the assailed one. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this thing plays itself out, and where it ends up going, all things considered. I think right now that Trump has the momentum.
Whew. So, I mean, when you hear that, you guys, I am going to have to go. But I mean, when you hear that, I mean, is that what you're seeing, Robert? Because I am seeing online a Black men are becoming much more vocal about their support for Trump, and some Black women are too. Is Robert still there? Oh, well, Kevin? Well,
I don't, I'm hoping not to. I'm hoping not to see that there's sympathy for the devil here in Donald Trump.
Kevin, let me tell you something. One of the things that people need to understand is that Black people have taken the worst that America has to offer. So Trump is not a frightening figure to us. I mean, he isn't. You might not like him, because I don't even know if we know his policies as much as we don't like him anymore. So there's that. And so people will face lynching, genocide, enslavement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no one you can really offer up who's going to frighten them. Not us. It's just not going to happen. And so I think that this anti-Trump, he's the most frightening figure, that is not going to work. Institute for Policy Studies came out with a study. I had Chuck Collins on from IPS about a week and a half ago. It will take 513 years for Black people to reach economic equality in the United States. And we don't have 513 years to make that happen. And I promise you, we feel it. Somebody's got to deal with that. Justice in policing. I just saw a TikTok video of a Black woman who had a gun in her purse. She was asked by a white police officer to get something out of her purse. She said, "I'm not going to do that. I got a gun in here. I'm telling you, I got a gun in my purse." That won't work out well for me. You need justice in policing. You need voting rights. Because even if I'm inclined to go vote for you at the polls, there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to get in there, because more and more of the Republicans are slanting the rules against me, because they're doing that too, and they're still purging. So I mean, Democrats have to. I mean, and you have more Black folks who, because Reverend put them in place, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on with them. I'm like, do you not know what's happening here, or are you just stuck in the loop of the Beltway? What?
Well, it's also each of those areas you talked about right now is governed by a different part of the government. And when we look at voting rights, that's what Republican legislators in red states are doing right now. All right, You're looking at policing. For instance, we got to fix the Ronald Watts situation in Chicago right now. Policing is done on a city-by-city basis as well. Just need more progressives in positions of power to enact an agenda that will address that problem. But that's why I tend to err on the path of it's not the perfect party of the Democrats, but it's the only party option, and it's the only way we're going to be able to affect this change. Yeah, I remember when I put my hair in a ponytail, put on a suit, and I looked like the establishment was like radicals, that I started to affect change. And that's what we got to focus on. We got to focus on, Trump's Supreme Court took away affirmative action. Trump's Supreme Court took away the Voting Rights Act. Trump's Supreme Court took away a woman's right to choose, and so that's when we get, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if whoever the Republican is, even if it's not Trump that becomes president. Then what they're going to take with its victories in the Supreme Court, they're going to then push those through, and then the executive orders are going to start.
Yeah, but we had affirmative action. We was only getting 0.5% of the contracts. So what does it matter if they take away what we really never really had? I mean, all this has been a pretext to maintain our vote, but we have got no benefits from any of this. It does not matter who the president has been in the last 40 years. The head of the Treasury has come from Goldman Sachs. Whoever is Republican or Democrat is in the White House. The head of the Treasury is coming from Goldman Sachs. And so what does it matter if they're going to get bailed out and we're going to lose our houses? Obama was in charge then, and the results were the same. Bankers got bailed out. The poor lost the little houses that they did have, and it was written on.
Okay, but that's who Okay, who is the person that's going to do? Who is the person right now that's running for president who will do a better job than Obama did?
Say that again.
Who is the person that's running for president right now that can do a better job than Obama and correct the mistakes you just mentioned?
Cornel West.
Okay. And then how does Cornel West get elected?
By people voting for him.
Is he
the same way Biden get elected?
Right.
The same way Biden get elected. People voting for him.
Well, Biden also has the ability to get on the ballot because he has people that he has been able to generate enough grassroots support that he can get on the ballot.
And Cornel gets on the ballot.
So how many statewide organizations has Cornel West have right now running in the country? How many people are working? How many volunteers and how many staff members does Cornel West have right now?
He's putting together an organization. They'll be on about 40.
How many?
They'll be on 40 ballot. So
tell me who is. All right. Well, then let's get down to brass tacks. Who in Illinois does Cornel West have that is who is working for Cornel West on it right now? Who can I call right now to get Cornel West on the show? Who can I call right now to find out?
You can call me.
So you can call.
You can call me,
Cornel,
and I will call Cornel. I can call him directly. You can call me.
Okay, then tell Santita right now what day Cornel's going to appear on her show.
We've already worked on that.
Okay, well that's good. So who is doing? All right, right now in Illinois, you could be gathering petitions to get on the ballot to run in Illinois. How many petitions are the petitions printed in Illinois for Cornel to get on the ballot in Illinois?
They're being printed, but the fact of the matter is the ones that resist the most are the Democrats. Wait a minute, hold on, let me finish. In Illinois, the one that put up all obstacles to third-party candidacy are the Democrats. They're the ones that have been protecting those interests over the last 40, 50 years, and they're the ones who challenge your signatures. More than any more than the Republicans in Illinois.
Tell me, no. Let's get out of the theory and get into the practicality. Where can I go pick up a Cornel West petition today?
The Green Party is in process. He's putting together an infrastructure.
So he's running for the Green. I thought. Wait. Hold on. I thought he was running for the People's Party. I thought he was running for the People's Party.
No, I think they said Robert Kennedy will be in the People's Party.
Robert.
I mean, that's one of the speculate.
Cornel is on the Green.
No, wait, wait, Kevin. That's a reported speculation. Should he lose in the primary? I don't know. I said it's a reported speculation. Okay.
All right. So is Cornel running in the Democratic primary or for a third party in Illinois?
No, he's running in the Green Party. He's not in the Democratic primary.
Okay, so can I call and get petitions today for Cornel West?
Not today, but you don't need petitions today because he's not running today.
No. Hold on. Yeah, right now. Okay. All right. When did petitions start in Illinois? Let me ask you this: what day did people start circulating petitions in Illinois?
I think it's in 6 months. I think they got a window when you can circulate petitions.
All right. Okay. So you think that you circulate petitions in Illinois 6 months from today?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay. All right. So here, no. Petitions start September 5th. So if the Green Party people at Cornel West's campaign thinks that they can start doing petitions 6 months from now, that's past the filing date. So Cornel West people, what you're telling me, don't even understand what the rules are in order to do third party.
No, I didn't understand if what you're saying is true, which needs to be researched. Is that what you were saying? You're saying that the reason Cornel can't win is because the petitions can't be circulated within a certain amount of time. And I'm saying to you is that that's a matter of an infrastructure. is that the Green Party was on, I think, in what, 40 states last time? They have an infrastructure.
Right, but what they have to do in order to be, you still have, even if you're a Green Party member in the state, you still have to go through the Green Party primary in order to be nominated for the presidential nomination in the state of Illinois. Those petitions start at September 5th, all right? So if Cornel West wants to be on the ballot in Illinois, he has to go through a primary for the Green Party, all right? Then he gets nominated, and then he becomes on the November ballot. If you want to start doing petitions, Cornel West campaign can't wait 6 months because 6 months is past the deadline. Petitions got to be submitted in November.
I didn't say they was waiting 6 months. And Kevin, your argument is an argument that therefore the only ones we're left with is Biden, and that's a fallacious argument.
No, I didn't say that. My argument is if Cornel West wants to get on the ballot in Illinois, my question to you is you have the connection with Cornel West that you just said, all right?
Right.
Who else in Illinois is working for Cornel West? What are their names and phone numbers? What's their email addresses so that we can talk to them?
I can't tell you that. I know there are people who can't tell you who's working for Biden. There are people in place that are working. I can't tell you who's working for Trump, but there are people working for all of them. Just because I don't know them, don't mean they don't exist.
But you presented this that it's Cornel West that you were working on Cornel West appearing on the show, right? And you and Santita are working on things, right?
You say no. You asked that question.
No, wait. Let me say this. Let me intervene here. I've reached out to Dr. West. Dr. West has been out the country. Dr. West, independent of my relationship with Dwight McKee, I've known Dr. West more than 40 years. When I lived in New York, I used to visit him when he was a professor at Princeton, okay, which had nothing to do with Dwight McKee. So he's been out of the country. That's why he's not been here. And I am working to schedule. I've had Marianne Williamson on the show. I'm working, I had her on when you all were working with her 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm working to have Robert Kennedy on. We're just trying to work out those details as we speak. So let me just speak for myself. Okay. But I need you all to wait. Chaparral is saying this. What Kevin is missing is for Black, and I'm sorry, I'm squinting, is for Black and brown people, no matter who's on the ballot, if they are not responding to the issues of the people will stay home. So what say you, Kevin?
I agree. It's, yes. And hopefully that somebody that supports Biden, hopefully I'm being an effective messenger. But if I'm not being an effective messenger, then maybe I shouldn't be on your show then.
No, I think you're an effective messenger. I think I think that you are effective, but I think what we have to understand is the frustration of people out here. And because
people don't think that
No, I don't think, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what you are, because you're out amongst the people. I know you. I've known you a long time, Kevin, decades. The thing is, what you can do is take back to them, hey, I did this show. People are feeling this kind of way. Because, Washington and campaigns are their own bubbles, right? And sometimes people miss things. And I think I can see from the messaging, and, I've been in presidential campaigns, one or two, a few, and I can tell when they are missing the messaging. I could see that with the way they snatched the president off the stage in Hanoi. I was like, if he's having a bad day, if he's having a spell, don't let him out there. Or limit him. Don't cut him off mid-sentence and turn up some light jazz music like this WLIT. That ain't working. So there's some things that they are missing that, quite frankly, and it's hurting him. And I just hate, as someone who's known this man for more than 40 years, I hate to see that, even though I have been on the other side, I've been opposite him politically for most of the time that I've known him. But just as a human being, and y'all, I can tell you, he's a nice guy. It breaks my heart to see that. I'm like, what are you all doing? And people are talking about that, Kevin. They are. But they're also talking about, as Dr. King said 50, 60 years ago, riots are the language of the unheard. And that's where we are now. People don't feel heard. They don't feel heard. And so when you're not having debates, when the corporate media, all they can do is just tear Robert Kennedy apart. Ask Cornel West, what are you doing here? It's not helpful. And ignore Marianne Williamson completely. It's not helpful. So it hurts the Democrats. Since we're talking about the Democrats, it hurts them. It's very harmful. It's not helping. It's not winning. And his poll numbers are just so bad. I'm shocked every time they come out, Kevin and Dwight. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And I just really, I want to know from people, like, what do you think? What's on your mind? What's not catching for you? What? I just think it needs to. We're gonna have to open up the process and listen to people. And no one's gonna get it right
and it's
every
not
time.
you, Kevin.
Well, I don't think
it's not the message. It's the message. Yeah, it's not the message. It's the message.
So
in some ways he's a victim of the disappointment in Barack. Is that Barack made all these promises and then they live on most of them. And so people really are very closed-minded when it comes to the notion of hope and change, because they got neither the hope nor the change. And so, in a real sense, there has to be more than promises. There has to be some deliverables, and that's what people, in my estimation, are not seeing, or at least is not being communicated in such a way that they understand it.
Kevin, I'm going to have to give you all closing thoughts. I'm going to give closing thoughts to Dwight and then to you, Kevin. Dwight, your closing thoughts?
Is that I think that I'm not pro or anti anybody in this. Again, I'm a social scientist. I'm just looking at what the cloud to bring it into the weather patterns. And right now, I see Biden being protected to his own demise. That if they believe that he's capable of being a president, they'll put him on the stage and let him debate the issues like anybody else who's running for president. If they believe he's not capable of holding his own in the debates, then they should look at maybe running another candidate. But it's going to be very hard for them to protect somebody who most of the world is saying as aging every day, and again has not really gone through being able to justify the scandals of this pending impeachment, which is also going to take a lot of life and momentum away from the president. And so he's polling now at 40% or 45%. You wait till the Republicans start having these impeachment hearings. If you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight. It's going to get worse.
Kevin, your closing thoughts?
I remain optimistic. I remain participant. I think that the solution to all these challenges is for more people to participate in the process. And by that, I mean more people vote, more people read, more people research, more people search out more information, and they show up and be a part of the system.
Show up and show out. And that's why we're going to have John Nichols back on, because people did show up in Wisconsin. And as you can see, Republicans have continued to fight. They're trying to impeach the woman who won the majority of the vote, the justice who won the majority of the vote. But the only way that you can have a say is to vote, is to participate. and and continue to reform the system. And if you want a third party to be more robust, join it, and enlist others to join, and get them on the ballot. All of these things matter because look, the system is rigged. It's rigged for the Republicans and the Democrats. That's straight up. That's what it is. That having been said, the system is also, I mean, our founding fathers were brilliant in that they left space for for the Constitution to be amended, for things to be changed, even for the government to be turned over should we be dissatisfied with it. They left space in the Constitution as well. So think about that, everybody. Think about it and get involved. Get involved. Don't be on the sidelines, and really don't be on the sidelines in 2024. On the local, county, state, federal levels, there's a lot that is at stake here. And we say that every election, but we see it. Now you have a Supreme Court that has people up in arms all over the country about women losing agency over their bodies. Affirmative action thrown out. We've been on this track for almost 50 years, but now we're here. There's a lot of work to be done, but you have to participate. You must participate. So have I missed anybody? Are we good? I want to thank both of you for participating, and for your rigorous and robust discussion today. Because this is, and I'm glad that we can disagree without being disagreeable. I think that that's something that the audience can really, I think you can have a great takeaway from that, because Kevin and Dwight are friends and they are collegial and friends off the air. It's just that, we all have we have different people have different viewpoints. But I think that if we continue to talk and really work with one another, we can really make some progress together. We can do that. Kevin, give Kitty my love. Now, I got to get Kitty the next time. Is she in the country?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I got to check, because I don't know where any of you are ever. I never know. But there's a lot. There's a lot that's out here. And the numbers are bearing that out, Kevin and Dwight. The numbers are bearing out that there's a lot of unrest out here, a lot of unrest. And even as Democrats had completely disrespected Reverend, he came out because he saw the bigger picture, and he would campaign and continue to register people to vote. Hey, Barack Obama needs to be out here registering people to vote. He should be doing that. Michelle should be doing that. It's their time. Reverend's 82 in about 3 weeks. Get out here, get people registered to vote, get people fired up. If you want folks to win, and don't use scare tactics. I'm telling you, people who have endured slavery, we're fear proof. I'm over it. And the anti-Trump vote, well, that was in 2020. Now people can see clearly now, 2020. Now it's, what are you going to do for me vote? That's what it is. And so let's get to work, everybody. I love you. I love you, Kevin. I love you, Dwight. I love you, love you, love you. Morning Stars. I love you, everybody. Please like and share the show. I got to bounce, D-Ray, because I got to go get this passport, girl. I've been waiting for a minute. I missed the trip because my passport expired, and it takes a long time to get these appointments. Okay, and I got my appointment, and I got to get downtown, and I'm going to be early so they give me my stuff. How about that? Because I'm good. I love you. I love you all. Love you, Kevin. Give Kitty my love. Love you, Dwight. Love you, Alex. Love you, Jim. Everybody, thank you for a great show. Love you. I'm out of here today. All right. God bless. Have a great one.